Hello, this is Kathy Keeley with the Georgia Center for Nonprofits. This is a short webinar on cash is king and our financial recommendations right now, given what we know on April 24th, 2020. So with that, we think it's really important that you maintain cash in the organization. So here are our key recommendations. First, make sure you apply for the Payroll Protection Program if you have employees. If you do not and have experienced loss of revenue, look to the disaster loans. The applications will be opening up this weekend. Apply as soon as you can. Our second recommendation, you've got to retain cash. There are too many unknowns for going forward. We aren't sure when recovery happens. We've got the recession. Who knows what fall looks like? So we're recommending that nonprofits consider cutting expenses, reducing, cutting, whatever they can right now to retain cash for later. See if you can change the quarterly payments, if you can delay payments, see what you can do with everything from rent, utilities, credit card payments. Maybe you can make your insurance payments in quarterly installments, really trying to conserve cash. So you want to keep your cash in the bank, both for liquidity reasons on your balance sheet and to look stronger, but also for when you're going to need it for either recovery expenses or other kinds of shelter in place that we may have to do later on. We think it's important that you don't spend all of your reserves now if you're lucky to have them. We think you need to preserve some of them for reentry. So thinking, oh, I'll just keep paying staff for 30 or 45 or 75 days out of the reserve, then what happens in the fall? Then what happens if you need to gear up or make some changes? We think it's important to leverage a line of credit right now. We think you ought to consider applying for a line of credit from your local bank. Use your reserves as collateral. So if you haven't spent them all, you've got cash, you can get a line of credit for up to 80% of what you have collateral for. So we think the combination of a line of credit and reserves would get you through fall. I know it's a loan. I know boards are resistant. I hope they'll consider it because these are unusual circumstances. Again, you will need permission from the board. I'm sure your bylaws require debt authorization. So you have to talk this through with your treasurer and then talk it through with the board. Make realistic revenue projections. So before you go for that and the loans, look at cutting your revenue by 20, 40, and 50%. Think about it as best, worst, middle case. Look at every revenue line item for this fiscal year, particularly if you're on a calendar year, or for your new fiscal year if it begins July 1. It's probably late, given it's April, to do something if you're on a June 30th, but then you can move forward to fiscal year 2021 if you're on a July 1. Realistic revenue projections. We are in a recession. We're going to have all kinds of different changes to our revenue. I would expect state cuts for this fiscal year. The legislature is going to come in and probably next year contracts anywhere from 10 to 30% cuts. Some organizations may get zeroed out. We're in for a rough ride as the legislature tries to deal with the state budget. We think foundations are likely to be flat. We think corporations will probably be reduced given their earnings are down. And we think individuals are going to donate early, probably be very generous in the vulnerable population area, but we're not sure they'll continue through fall. So if you've got fall campaigns, you may be seeing donor fatigue or disaster fatigue. We think creating cash flow worksheet, and we've got all kinds of templates on gcn.org. These templates, we have one for scenarios, we have one for financial modeling, cash flow, budgets, revenue analysis. Please use the projections because all the formulas are figured out. But a month by month for 12 months, begin with April 1st or start back with January and put in actuals, whatever works. But you need a cash flow in order to show when you've got revenue or shortfalls or more expenses than income. Cash flow, remember, is all about when money hits the checking account. So it's when you actually receive funds, not when you're promised them. So same with expenses, when you actually cut the checks or bill cut vouchers. So think through your cash flow carefully. Make cuts earlier rather than later. We learned in the last recession in 08 and 09 that the longer you wait, the deeper the cuts have to be. The earlier you can make them, the smaller the cuts. Think through your options. Hopefully you can get into PPP. It would give you money to keep employees through June 30th, but after that, We've got a long way to go, probably 24 months in this recession. What does it look like to keep your organization going, and what makes sense? Think about furloughs, reductions in salary, all the different kind of options. Again, once you create a worksheet or a cash flow, you can change up your salary assumptions and look at what different kinds of scenarios do to the organization. We think it's really important to engage your board and your treasurer. Many boards are meeting more often right now. The treasurers are engaging. Maybe it's a finance committee. You need a small team that helps you think through the scenarios, helps you think through your best, worst case, your revenue projections. So engage your committees and your boards in this conversation. We think that scenario planning is one option. Creating actually actionable scenarios that think through how you get through the rest of this fiscal year or the calendar year and what you're going to do for 2021. Budget projections, so maybe you just do an annual budget. We suggest you start budgeting for 2021 so that you can see where this is headed longer term. Be very realistic in both your revenue and expense projections. We're going to start preparing resiliency planning worksheets. It's something we used in the recession. We're going to resurrect those and share those that we probably think will replace strategic planning for the moment as we all try and figure out our options. Thank you for listening to this short financial planning, financial modeling, cash is king webinar. We really suggest you think seriously and put together different options. We've been doing rapid consulting. Lots of people are asking about this. So we created this short video. Good luck and please stay well. Goodbye.